It's the
Yeah,
end of the month. That means it's the end of World Cup.
I
I feel like
know.
I feel like we're still not out of it yet. So many things are still rolling on social media that I'm like, you guys need to let me detox, please. I need to detox.
I know, and but it's just crazy how much of a big event it is, and how quickly it ends. Like you
That
just
is
deal
true.
with it for like I don't know 3 weeks or so, or a month, and then it's gone. It's like, damn. Now what
Yeah.
do we do? What do we do with all this energy that we still have left over?
You scroll until there's nothing else left to do in your day. That's what's happening right now.
No,
People are
we
still
need.
it's still scrolling. They're still scrolling. And now with Sydney winning the goal of the tournament, I was like, y'all gotta stop. Bozinha coming out with the ad for the Spider-Man movie. I can't. I was like, you guys, Sino ka tabing pode is exactly what I told my
Yeah,
sisters and some of my friends. I was like, yo, we can't. I was like, I can't. I need to detox. I need to stop this whole World Cup stuff. But
I know,
I
I
mean,
know.
the adrenaline is still there.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it shows how significant it was, how impactful it was, especially for us. There's so much still going on. I just saw news that Bubista got hired as a head coach for a Moroccan team in the Moroccan league.
Oh, so that's what that was. I saw something. I saw a poster. I didn't read it. I was like, you see, I gotta stop.
Yeah,
I saw his face. I saw Morocco, but
yeah, yeah.
I
No,
wasn't sure. I didn't go look
I'm super
close. I
happy
didn't take a
for
closer look.
seeing that, because usually it's the players who get the biggest highlights and the contracts and all of that. But
Of
here we
course,
go,
yeah,
Bubista having been, the head coach and the main leader of the national team, getting his fair share,
yeah. Well deserved. Well
Absolutely.
deserved. That's for sure. But yeah, for like the thing that I keep thinking about the World Cup is, I mean, obviously the first time that we are celebrating as Cabo Verdeans, and then thinking back about, you know, all fanatics for World Cup, but it was, we all dream it, but it's still not a real, like a realistic dreams. And being, every 4 years you have certain memories of, obviously of the World Cup. And for me and my sisters, and like growing up in Sal, it was always all about Brazil. Like World Cup
Mm,
was equivalent. It's like World Cup equals Brazil. That Brazil, that's it. Like for us, for me, it was always about that. Like Brazil, Brazil, Brazil. Like crazy fanatic for Brazil, and we know all the players. We know every every player that was on the pitch, no matter what year they were playing. But we grew up around football all our lives. With Papa being a coach. So from the local club we had, Juventude is what I grew up, rooting for Nassau. And then, as you keep, as getting older, and you start picking your obviously your European team, Sporting. I was born a Sporting without choosing. So I was born Juventude without
you
choosing.
didn't have
I
a
was
choice.
born No, I was born Sporting. I didn't choose. And then eventually Brazil, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like all these, from local to the European club, which is the one that obviously Cavill sees the most. And then at the World Cup, it was Brazil. But interesting to have all three of them very different type of, a local, an international, then at the World Cup level. So rooting for Brazil for so long. It was not a weird experience, but like and a crazy experience to have Cabo Verde in the World Cup and rooting for Cabo Verde, and then you still have love for Brazil, but then Brazil doesn't perform the way that the way that we were used to seeing Brazil perform. So it was like it was such a like mixed emotion kind of World Cup. But just having Cabo Verde there was like, oh my God, for the first time I'm actually rooting for my country. And that's all I really care about. Everybody else became an added value to the World Cup, but they were not
Yep.
the reason why I was watching it. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
that that was the whole thing for me.
So for some of our audience who aren't fully aware, like when you're born and raised in Cape Verde, you have no choice but to root for either for like Sporting, Porto, or Benfica. like that, the
Yes,
from the clubs from the Portuguese leagues, and you're just indoctrinated into these things. If somebody
at
comes out,
birth.
yeah, if someone comes out talking about how he's a fan of, I don't know, Estrela da Amadora, they're just gonna be like, dude, you make there's something wrong
What do
with
you
you.
mean?
It's those
Yes,
three clubs there, and that's it. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but me, I don't know. I've had a weird journey because I remember as a little kid, I used to root for Porto, but then as I grew up, all of a sudden I became a Benfica fan. And my friends make fun of me for that. For the longest time, they always tease
I
me
would have
about it.
joined your friends.
Like by the time I got to high school, I was just a full blown Benfica fan, and everybody's like, "What? How do you go from like one rival? How do you just convert to your rival, right? Because Porto and Benfica are the main rivals." And the thing is, the same thing happened in terms of the World Cup. Uh, um, on the when it comes to like national teams, I used to be a Brazil fan, and then as I grew
Worst.
up, all of a sudden I became an Argentina fan.
No.
Argentina, I know, and Argentina is like Argentina and Brazil. They have like that's probably the biggest rivalry in sports. Um, and today it's kind of weird because uh, it's not easy being an Argentina fan these days.
As
you know,
as it should not. It should
yeah,
not be
yeah,
easy.
yeah,
There's way too much.
absolutely,
It's
absolutely. I
and
mean,
and and is always everything is very politicized. Always, there's a lot of social components to politics in sports. People like to say, "Oh, play the sport separated." You can never because one, they
it's
don't
very
do it.
hard.
You as a player. Two is like the fans and everything else is very is very political. Like even with the Portuguese league, my dad used to always say, yeah, every good player was trained in Sparting's yeah, training, like the base, right, the training clubs and whatnot. And then with Benfica, because Salazar was such a Benfica person, there are like endless stories out there that we probably would have to triple check and verify. But I've heard stories of, with Salazar doing his dictator times that, if you're
Mm,
playing against Benfica, you were going to lose because, God forbid, if you won. And like all
wow,
the refs were controlled, everything was controlled because Salazar would not let, people
wow.
win the game. Again, anybody can go fact check this. But those are the stories I heard growing up. Why? Because they always say, "Oh, Benfica got the most, won the most championship," and they're like, and that's because of Salazar, because you were not allowed to lose during Salazar's time. So it was all these other things about how politics really got involved into the Portuguese league. So that's what I grew up hearing. I never went to check
Wow.
because I didn't care to go deep into my rabbit hole for history research, but that's what I heard, that Salazar had a lot of say, a lot of influence, and basically that's why Benfica, they have the record that they have of most wins in a
Mm,
Portuguese league because of that. I mean,
yeah,
and I could see that because, as a dictator, yes, you're gonna run
right.
shop all day from the and it's football. So of course you're gonna, always try to, also do that. But for the Portuguese stuff, yeah, that's it. And we're seeing that happening. I mean, we saw this happening with the World Cup this year as well,
Yep.
of what's all the influences of stuff that's happening. So none of this is like necessarily new. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that it's at the World Cup level, so you see it completely like exposed. Let me just put it
Yeah.
that way. But politics and get into that stuff, and then the whole social thing in Argentina. Obviously, their stuff is very complex because of
Mm-hmm.
racial issues. So it was definitely a very emotional World Cup on different fronts, and you saw so many people, you know, react or go against Argentina, and they all had in countries, I should say, nations, because they had their own. Everybody had their own reason, and that's wild. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting that because maybe because I've never paid this deep attention to stuff before, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not that I wasn't old enough, but it wasn't something that I paid attention to before. But this World Cup felt very different for so many reasons, including
Yeah.
what people were, the reaction towards Argentina from a global
Mm-hmm.
perspective. That was intense, very
Yeah, and
intense.
and look, eventually some topics have to come to the forefront, and that's the power of sports. It brings all of this stuff to the forefront. And but you have the casuals, and then you have the football fans. You know what I mean? Like those two groups will have this discussion in a totally different way. But yeah, I mean, that's the going back to what you were saying about not rooting for Brazil in in a World Cup for the first time, probably
As the
since you were
main one, I
born.
was still rooting
Yeah,
for Brazil.
sure,
Huh?
sure, sure, sure. I get it. I get it.
I still
So
got love for Brazil.
it was the same it was the same experience for me. But it came a bit like maybe it was a little more amplified because there was a game between Argentina and Cape Verde, and I
Yes.
was in the stadium wearing my jersey, rooting 100,000% for Cape Verde. You know what I mean? Because that's my country.
Deus está defender também.
Yeah, claro, of course. But I mean, I don't know. I've heard rumors. I've heard some people talking about how because there's always those weird groups of people who were still rooting for Argentina, even though they're Cape Verdeans, and it's
Like,
like that's a whole nother
I
conversation.
don't have time for those. I don't
Like
have
we
time
don't,
for those
yeah,
people or energy.
yeah,
Bye.
totally. We probably don't even. I probably shouldn't even have mentioned that, but yeah, it was. Oh man, it was. I've never experienced that whatever it is that I experienced that I've never experienced that before,
Yeah.
and and of course it all started with the first goal that we scored against Uruguay. I was just standing there and I'm seeing this guy taking a shot of like, I don't know, I think it was like 80 something meters, and then Kevin, the free
Uh-huh.
kick, and then the ball goes in, and it's like, even though I had this explosive reaction obviously in the stadium, and but it was still sinking in. As I was celebrating, it was still sinking in.
I
Like,
can.
wait, the ball actually went in. And second, this is actually our very first goal in the World Cup. So it was just a lot all at
Yeah.
once.
It was a lot.
And not only that, it was amazing to see people who were clearly not Cape Verdeans celebrating, jumping, and going wild. Like that's the other thing that I saw during this World Cup that was just super special, was how Cape Verde all of a sudden, you know, became this point of convergence where everybody from all shapes and sizes and colors, from all from different continents, different regions, different countries, speaking different languages, different cultures, different creeds, all of a sudden they're all rooting for Cape Verde, all becoming Cape Verde fan. And this all started with the game against Spain. Like, I kid you not, Sully, I was sitting next to like Spain fans. The game starts and they're all rooting for Spain. By the time we reached the second half, you could see the conflict in their faces. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, wait, I actually like this team. Like they're putting up a fight against
The
the
performance
European
surprised
champions.
people. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Like they're
Yes.
putting up a fight against the European champion and the favorite for the World Cup. So much so that they actually won the World Cup. And it's like all of a sudden, I don't know. I think there's something about being an underdog that just reaches deep into your
Into
humanity. You
people.
know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
People
like it
love the under
touches
that. Yes.
touches your heart, it touches your soul, and all of a sudden, it's not even about your team anymore. It's about something much bigger than the team and the sport or the event. You know what I mean? And we saw that again against Argentina. You know, 2.7 billion people dialed into that game. That I think to this day is the most watched. I'll have to double check, but I know that up until then, I don't know
Yeah.
what
Up
the
until
numbers
that's
were.
what they. Yeah.
Yeah, I
After.
don't know
Yeah.
what the
That's
numbers
what.
were for the actual final, but I know that up until then, that broke the record of the not only the most watched, the World Cup game that got the most viewership, but probably the sports event that got the most viewership ever
viewership.
in the history of sports. And it was us
And it was
in
us,
there.
yes, and we were all up in it.
Yeah. And it's our
Yes.
first time in the World Cup. Um, Man, it's hard to put into words what our performance in this World Cup really meant, not only to us, but quite literally to the whole world. It was just
Yeah, it's
I'm
a
I'm
lot.
still trying to find ways to articulate the meaning of it.
I don't even think we can articulate it enough because like you said, you had people there by the end they conflicted, like they just watched a performance by a team that nobody expected. And it's not just that we were just the underdog. You're talking about a small island African nation. So we have a lot of little things about us, like little pinpoint, underdog. Oh, they're only, 500, 500,000, 600,000, whatever population we have now. Oh, they're an island nation. Oh, they're Thailand. They're actually 10 islands. Oh, wait, they're African country too. And it's like all these, oh, in the middle of the Atlantic. So it was like all these little things that people were like discovering, and they're like, who are these people? What's Cabo Verde and all of that. And then you had, the different types of, Cape Verde and all the names, and people getting, irked about how they say in Cabo Verde. It was like a lot of emotions happening at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And then with and just people discovering things, like for us, because it's so interesting, because we're a small country, Cavet, we've always known about everybody else in the world, right? Because we are a country that had always migrated, so we've always been curious and exposed about the rest of the world, right? And then to see everybody like, oh wait, this country exists, and we're like, why don't you know about us? About us, right?
Yeah.
Everybody should know about Cavet. The meaning of Cavet in the world history,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're, and it's not just the transatlantic slave trade. Before
Mm-hmm.
transatlantic slave trade, you had the salt industry. So when the salt industry was the thing, right? Kavir was also at the center of salt industry. So I'm talking about like, before, 1812. So early 1800s. And you have a lot of time where, uh, for many years that you had American ships, British ships, whatever ships come into Sal, Bovista, and Mayu to take salt, because salt was what kept, conserved food and all that stuff. So historically, in terms of history, world history, every country, everybody from all over the world should know about Kaveh for a number of reasons, because we've always been at the center of the economy. But nobody knows. So for us, it's like, okay, what do you mean you don't know about Kaveh? So it's a lot, especially me as a history person, and I'm like, how does people not, why do people not
Yeah.
know about us? But it was beautiful to see them being open to wanting to know more, like to actually, say, hey, I want to know more about Kavir. What is this? Or what is this country? What is this country doing to me? Like, it's like, I don't even know you, but now I don't even know who you are, but I want to know more. I want to go there. And the tournament is not even, we're not even done. It's been one game or two games. So for me, that was the beauty of it, was watching people discover Kavir and the Cabo Verdean people now wanting to know more, but being very genuine about it, and putting out their emotions, like that they can't even explain why they
Mm-hmm.
now feel so attached to Kavir. And I think the team, what them as a like really the definition of a team, and having a coach, like Bubista, in the entire, like that whole thing, the tech, the staff, your chef, whatever, the entire delegation, they really showed that they were one unit.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as someone who's been part of a federation before, right, from basketball, Cape Verde Basketball Federation, National Federation, I understand that side of all of this. Like for a while, like right in the beginning when all of this stuff was happening, all I kept thinking about is from an administrative standpoint. I was like,
Yeah.
the federation team is about to lose their marbles because we just qualified for the World Cup, and this is the FIFA World Cup. This is a different beast than FIBA. It's different. Football is a different beast from basketball, and it took me a minute for me to plug in as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was
Mm-hmm.
really into like federation mode, like, oh my God, how are they handling all of this? They're about to get bombarded with people wanting to partner with them all of a sudden and out of the blue. I was like, it's about to get crazy.
Yeah,
It's a
and
lot
you're
of
saying this because
management.
you were part of the
Yeah, I was the
administration
yeah,
team for FIBA,
yeah, I was no
for the
Cape
Basketball World
Verde,
Cup.
yeah. for Cabo
Uh,
Verde's National Basketball Federation. I was the vice president.
yep.
The year that we qualified for the first time for World Cup, for FIBA World Cup, for the basketball World Cup, that was in Japan. So when we qualified in 2023, even though it was our first time qualifying, we still did not get the level, let me say, the level of attention that football does. Because I mean, football is football; it's a different kind of thing. But the level of pressure of things that you need to do, it's the same. Like
Hmm.
the way that you got to put your, how fast you got to move, put your delegation together, the type of stuff, the restrictions. There are a lot of rules behind going into an international competition, like a lot. And then you have short deadlines you got to meet. I had a number of people reach out to me. Oh, Swaggy, I want to get on the football federation's delegation. I want to go take pictures, or I want to go film, or I want to go be part of the the medical team or whatever. Like somebody was like, I just want to carry their uniforms. So people are trying to, like, they want to be part of the history of the process. And I was like, let me just calm you down right now, because by now they probably already had to have all that information ready to go. They're not recruiting people right now. They're like going, they already have their delegation, because there are so many deadlines that you have to meet up that are so fast. Like everything happens really, really fast once you qualify.
Mm.
And at this level, I don't even want to know what is it like for FIFA. And then you have a lot of rules, like even for you to capture image, who's going to record. There so many rules to these things, and the amount of pressure that the entire leadership at the football federation was going through. I can imagine it, but I'm sure that I know they were 10,000 times more complex than we did for the basketball World Cup, but it's still a pressure that you have to deal with. It's still a lot of information. So it took me a minute for me to actually say, hold on, now I'm not on any federation. Like I can actually enjoy this as a fan, and be able to soak in and have that kind of experience. But I was feeling it for the federation, because I mean, even now, even for posts, there's so many other things that you have to you got to pay your bills. For me, it's just like, oh, that operational part is real. And I hope that they got to enjoy this moment, because there's so many things that you have to do from an operation standpoint, that I
Hmm.
hope the presidents, the VP, the general secretary, that at some point that they sat down and took it all in, that they actually appreciated that they were in the World Cup, and they in Cap Verde did as well as we did, because the pressure is real. Like the pressure on the operation side, administrative side is intense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the I think that the team's performance is a testament to the great job that they did. Because
Yes.
that pressure could easily find its way into the minds and the hearts of the players, and which could take them out of the game completely. But that wasn't the case. I
Completely.
mean, these guys were locked in.
Locked, yes.
They
That's what I
were
loved about
locked
it.
in.
I was talking to this with my sisters. I was like, oh my God. And my husband, I was like, this team is solid. For them to perform the way they did against Spain and be disciplined, because that's the other thing. Like even when the game is going, of course we have a bunch of group chats. Message my dad. I'm like, why aren't they going past the midfield? And my dad was like, this is a team that you have to think strategically. And he's like, they have to stick to whatever Bubista telling them to do. They need to play that defense like it is. Because Papa also used to be, way back in the days, he used to be part of the national coaching staff, the national team. So he's like, he actually used to be Bubista's coach. So they were like, they have to know how to keep that line of defense, because this is obviously a very powerful team kind of thing. And it was nice to be able to talk to my dad, who, being
Hmm.
a former national team coach, to be able to explain that part from a coach's perspective, to calm me down, because I was losing my marbles. Like
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? And it was so late in Cabo Verde. It was super late. My kids actually stayed up, and they managed to stay up to watch it. It was so late in Cabo Verde that I was like, am I going to hold my screams? Am I going to hold my whatever? Because I've
Yeah.
always been like this. Like since we were kids, it's emotion everywhere.
Mm.
But to have my dad to be able to explain that stuff on the back end as a coach, it added more value to me watching the game and
Yeah.
appreciating the team for being that disciplined. I have so much respect for them, just because they were able to hold their ground as a team, and they followed what they were supposed to do. Nobody wanted to be the hero. That's what made
You
them
see
who
it
they are. Nobody wanted
exactly.
to be the hero. Everybody did their part, And when it was
Mm-hmm.
time, they executed, especially for the first game against Spain. Nobody wanted to play, did the, not even a little bit show that they wanted, that they were about to, play the card that they want to be the hero for the game. And to me, that was the beauty in all of it. And I love them for that. And I respect them even more as professionals for being able to pull that off. And
Yeah,
hats to Bubista for managing them like that.
that's what I was going to say. I think this is all a consequence of Bubista's incredibly effective leadership. Uh, it's something that should be studied. Honestly, it should be studied in I don't know, written in an article or in a book and published somewhere for everybody to read and get insights into how effective leadership is performed. And that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I want to see. I want to someday hear Bubista really go into the weeds, into the technical weeds of how he was able to keep the team as 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 um
Tight.
as intentional, as tightly bonded as he did. Because you're right, you're in the World Cup. Everybody's gonna want to score their first goal in the World Cup. Everybody is dreaming of that. But no, even when they're there, right, in the opposition's goal, in the opposition's goal line, they're still playing as members of a team. And honestly, that is why, again, that's why we were able to perform, to have the performance that we did. And look, the game against Argentina, let me just remind y'all, that third goal was an own goal. It wasn't even scored by an Argentinian player. Go watch the replay and you'll see. The reason why Argentina made it past Cabo Verde, it was an accident on our part, a complete accident. So, for all you know, we could have made it to the penalties. And, in the penalties, it's 50-50.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Anybody
And
can
we had
can do it.
Vozinha.
Yes, and we had Vozinha. Vozinha was ready to do his thing.
was ready to do his thing.
But I think
The
I think at the end of the day, what this showed, and I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit here. Maybe this is something that you wanted to talk more about towards the end of the podcast, but
no, it's all good.
but I think that at the end of the day, what the performance of this team showed in the World Cup is, to us Cape Verdeans, especially to us Cape Verdeans. To the world, it had a totally different meaning, but to us, I think it has a very specific meaning, and that is, in my opinion, they showed what all of a sudden becomes possible when we believe more in ourselves, right? When we embrace everything that makes us who we are, and we go with that into these fields, to play against any opponent, to face any challenge. That's what happens. That's what becomes possible when we become the number one believers of us. And I say this because going to the World Cup, people are like, yeah, we're just gonna participate. We're gonna get our
Oh my
asses
God,
kicked by Spain. Yeah,
I hate when people say oh, participação. This
right,
not. I was like, do you know
right.
how much work it takes for a team, for a federation? Again, I'll go back to the administrative stuff. The type of work they put behind to
Yeah,
get to qualification games and then to this. It's not no participation. You're going there to win. Period.
right, right. It
That's your
was not
goal.
exactly 100%. 100%. You're on the biggest uh, uh, sports event in the whole world. Nothing
Boca vai
compares to
passear.
the
Ain't
World
nobody got
Cup.
time to
Yeah,
passear.
you didn't show up just to show up, just to win a participation trophy and say that you were in the World Cup. No, you went to compete. And I mean, just think about that for a second. Like, you've done all this work for decades, and you're just gonna participate. You're gonna go in with you know limited expectations, as I heard about there. No, you go in expecting to win, to compete and win.
Period.
And that, I'm telling you, has a lot to do with Bubista. He probably said, we're going to this event to win, to compete. Pointblankperiod.com.
Point blank period. And the other big part of the whole unity thing, just the other day, And we saw it throughout different interviews. But the other day I saw a couple of days ago, I saw another one that this lady interviewed Bubista about the language part. And this is like, I was so happy. I was like, I'm make sure Kriolish go. And I like the video as Kriolish because I was like, this is such a big part of it because he talked about, if you, especially because you have a lot of players that are from the diaspora, and this is Cabo Verde, right? We are the country and we are our diaspora. This is what makes up the Cabo Verde and Cabo Verdeans, right? And he was very clear about it. He's like, they had to learn, had to make sure that they learn Creole, that they speak Creole, that they feel comfortable because you need to own it. Like you need to own that you are part of this team, that you're representing the country. You're not just here to be here, kind of thing. And I love the fact that he actually, was very clear in saying how intentional he was about that part. Like you have to know the language. And he even says a few times when he passes by them and they speak in either French or Dutch or whatever, fla Creole. You know what I mean? Which is, yeah, we saw him doing that to Cabral at another interview early on when they were doing training. But he's very clear about that. And that's the most powerful thing for me as coming from a coach, because what we see even with Kriolish, why people feel like they've been disconnected from the family is simply because they don't feel confident enough in the language, or they don't speak Creole at all, right? That's what has distanced them from either family or the country or understanding Cape Verde as a whole. So the language is what brings us, is literally what keeps us together, no matter what. If you're in Cape Verde, if wherever parts of the world. So to hear Bubista say it like that, I was like, word. That's what I'm talking about. Like people really need to understand that speaking Creole is very important in any process that you're connecting to the country. So I was very happy to see someone who's at the status that he is right now to actually name it and say they have to learn. They have to start, learning and getting comfortable with Creole, because that's what's bringing it together. That's who we are, as a people. And for us with Kriolish, we weren't even ready for this World Cup in a way that we should have been, because I mean, obviously all these surprises happen. But even for Kriolish, when our social media, the one post, our most popular post was the one that we did, wishing good luck to all the Creole nations, us, Curacao, in Haiti. And that thing, I mean, I'm still baffled at how much attention. Every now and then I'll still see a like coming in. I'm like, oh, people are still liking this post. That
Yep.
was something that we were so happy. It was like, oh, we should wish everybody good luck in their own Creole. And we did that. The amount of comments and shares and reposts, especially people from Curacao that we're not as close. We're very close to Haitians, right? Because especially here in the United States, we have a very close connection with them here. But to see a lot of folks from Curacao, I don't even know how you call them. Is it what? I don't know. You usually have Cabo Verdeans, Haitians. I'm not sure.
Quarter
Somebody from
sounds.
Curaçaoans. Somebody needs to come and tell us how you refer to yourselves. But it
Yeah.
was really nice to see folks from Curacao like all over our comments and sharing and wishing good luck to the other teams as well. That was really, I was really happy with that post and surprised by the engagement around it, but super happy to see Curacao, which is, Curacao is on our list of Creoles that we want to come, bring in as part of the Kriolish family to make sure that the language does not get lost anywhere. So it was really nice to be like, okay, our network, we're building our network right now. And I did not think that was going to come out. That was going to be an outcome of the World Cup at all. That was a big surprise to me on the Kriolish side of things.
Yeah, that post was awesome. And it wasn't even anything like spectacular, right? It wasn't a
Yeah.
video. It was just like pictures, and everybody for some reason, rallied behind that post simply because of this Creole identity that we all share across all of these
Yes.
these three nations that made it into the World Cup. And it was great validation for us because remember, our long-term vision is one day to add support for the Creole from Curacao and
Other parts.
Haiti to the platform. And there you have it. That gave us a lot of validation as far as, uh, uh, finding out whether that would be a good direction to move in. And I think it definitely is. Now we just need to,
Mm,
build a complete blueprint with Cabo Verdean Creole, and then soon enough we'll start knocking on our neighbors' doors.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is like because also like threads became a thing during the World Cup, which
I
it
know,
was like
right?
I would start on Instagram and next thing I'm like, how did I end up in threads? Somebody please tell me how am I here? But the good thing about it is that I also find myself, I'm just not looking at World Cup videos because, there's so many other stuff that doesn't belong in this podcast about the World Cup. But the other thing was people asking questions. Oh, I want to learn, people coming out saying, oh, my grandparents are Cabo Verdean. Because everybody's like, now everybody's coming out of the woodwork that they're Cabo Verdeans. I love it.
Finding Cape Verdean
I
lineage, yeah.
I love the fact that they're doing that. For me, it's like this
Yep,
is exactly what we want. So, like we are a
totally.
diaspora people. We welcome everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
the interesting
Morabeza.
thing was seeing, yes, the interesting thing was seeing like people just, and then some folks saying, I just want to learn the language, period. And then everybody saying, I want to go visit. Do I need to learn Portuguese? And then you see people get in the comments, no, you got to learn Creole. And then somebody was like, just find a friend. And I was like, you have Kriolish. We have, and then
Yep.
I just had my whole, like, then I just found myself on threads looking for who wants to learn Creole, who wants to learn Creole. And I was just there, like, copy paste, throwing stuff in there and having a whole engagement that I was not expecting to have during this World Cup, like, honestly. And not on
Yeah.
threads, first of all. So
Yeah.
now it's like, it's growing a community there. Post World Cup is growing there. People are still looking. Some folks already, got on the plane, especially Brasileiros. They got on the plane. They're already in Cabo Verde doing their
Oh, I
content,
already have
vlogging.
friends,
A bunch.
people that I met when I went to Rio a couple years back. They're already sending me a message on WhatsApp. Hey, I want to go to Cabo Verde. What do I do? What do you recommend? Blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, the power of
Yeah,
the
it's
World Cup.
it's real. Yeah, it's a real thing that's happening, and to see people actually seeking information and trying to find out more about what is it that they have to, what is it that they have to do to step up the game for the language. Some of them were like, oh, I know a few words, and then they'll show that they actually know the few words, but it's like, but I gotta get better. But it was such a like a roller coaster for everybody, and they just like I'm here and I want to know more, whatever it is. And I was happy that Kriolish was able to make that plug in and do that. And we had I think, what was the word that was searched the most was win. I
Win,
think it
yeah,
was, yes, during the World Cup. And like you said, it was only 2 weeks, but this felt the longest World Cup I've ever experienced in my life. Because, like,
yeah, because
again,
it was a wild
nobody's letting
ride.
me detox.
Yeah,
Yes, it's the
that
end.
too.
We're still getting these it's like little crumbs, post World Cup crumbs coming in still. But it's still, it's still there. And even for us now, we're on threads, folks. Kriolish is now on threads, and that one is already growing pretty fast
Mm-hmm.
already. I saw the other day, I think we're already on 400 followers, I think, and we haven't
Mm-hmm.
even done much. We just, activated or whatever. But just to see that it's still like it's there, you know what I mean? People are,
Yeah.
are gonna go, are gonna look for it, and I probably next year, because obviously this happened now, is either folks are gonna plan for the Christmas holidays or next year, and then if it's someone who's into Carnaval and all of that stuff, that's February. So I think next year Cape Verde is going to see a much crazier boom for diversified tourism,
Yep.
which is what we haven't had in a. It has is not our uh, historically speaking, we do not have a very diversified tourism because we know the people, we know the usual suspects, right? That are
Yeah.
coming from Europe, hiding from the cold. The type of demographics is very clear. That's about to change completely in Cape Verde. Completely,
Yeah.
we are about to have people, especially the Brazilians, are about to become, I think, one of
Mm,
our number one, and they're about to find out that we've been there all along, waiting for them,
yeah.
all along.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's funny how things might change now. Is because every time you said Cabo Verde, right? Because there's a place in Brazil called Cabo Verde.
Cape
Whenever you
Verde,
tell
yes. They
a
also have São
Brazilian,
Vicente in Cape Verde. I mean, in
yeah,
Brazil.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you tell a Brazilian that you're from Cabo Verde, immediately they might think of Cabo Verde somewhere in
In,
Brazil.
yeah, in
But
Brazil,
I
yeah.
wonder, I wonder if now, because of the World Cup, the moment you say Cabo Verde, they're just gonna think immediately Cabo Verde in
Us.
West
Oh,
Africa.
yes.
So it's
I'm
gonna
sure.
be, that's gonna be,
I'm sure.
that's gonna be a funny, a funny change in how they see things. But yeah,
And for us, we have to think about because of the Brazilian, the amount of Brazilians that are now discovering Cape Verde. What does it mean for us from a Kriolish teaching Creole from the Portuguese perspective, but then you have Brazilian Portuguese is very different from Portuguese from Portugal.
Yep.
So these are other things that we also have to come and think about. Like, what does it mean for us? Like, how do we pivot as a not pivot, but how do you add an extra
Absolutely.
component to our plan that was not there? And for us, even as a startup, that's important. Like, how do you make sure you're not missing opportunities? Now we have to come and think about, okay, how is this going to work? Because they're going to be like, hey, I want to learn Creole, but that's from Portuguese and it's not from Brazil in particular, and it's not from English. So we have some, Brazil is giving us a run for our money. Like, we're going to have to come look at some stuff and see how we
Yeah.
can,
No,
make that
100%. I think
incorporation. Yeah.
yeah, I think all of this represents for us at Kriolish. I mean, these are things that we've always suspected, but again, once you get clear proof from like how the market is reacting, then it's like, okay, now it's time to make
It's time
moves.
to,
But
yes.
yeah, definitely this is another opportunity to expand the market. Right now we're teaching the language mostly for English speakers, but hey, very soon we're going this isn't to say that we can't teach it to Portuguese speaking population or French speaking population, Spanish
Yes.
speaking population, so on and so forth. Speaking of which, as we got closer and closer to the first game against Spain, funny enough, guess who started buying our
Oh,
courses?
yeah. I forgot about that.
People from Spain. We started getting enrollments from
I completely
Spain,
forgot about that.
and it's like, okay, this is very, very cool, very interesting. But yeah, in general, during this World Cup, our enrollments quadrupled.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is that whatever enrollments we were getting before the World Cup, that got multiplied by 4. We saw almost triple um, um, uh, the amount of account registrations, user account
Registrations, yeah.
registrations. We saw that around 79 distinct countries visited the website, right?
Yeah, this is thank you, World
39.
Cup.
Yeah, I know, crazy. And then like you said, in June, the most searched translation was the word win, which is like, this is it's like the data doesn't
It's
lie,
like, wait,
right?
how do I root for Cabo Verde in, in their own language kind of thing? So it's, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
it's,
Well, in the
it's,
case of
it's really
Spain,
cool.
maybe they were trying to learn so that they could understand, you know, the
What? Oh yes, I'm
crap
very. I
that we'd
would
be
love
talking.
if we can. It would be nice if we get the chance to meet one of the learners from Spain and like walk us through your thought process, like when you actually decided to enroll, and what were you really thinking? Or
Yeah,
maybe you have descendants, because I have family from, obviously I have family somewhere in Spain and in Andorra and stuff like that. So I do have, it's like I won't be surprised maybe a Creole is like descendant is like, wait, I need to learn this language too. So it would be awesome if we actually found someone who could tell us exactly why they
yeah,
decided right before the World Cup
yeah.
to actually do that.
I mean, I think,
And
like I said, I think it's pretty obvious, but it's like at the very least, I need to understand how they're gonna, like, their chants or the crap that they'll be talking to our team.
something
We need to understand
we need
what
to have
these
like
Cape Verdean
a dark
fans are saying.
Creolish side and tell them this is
Yeah,
what people were
yeah,
saying. Because I saw some comments and I was just like, yo, Creole is a like is it Mo when they like if they want to cuss you out or whatever they
it's yeah,
really they really can
yeah.
do
We've
that
been we've
stuff.
been we've been thinking about launching a course for cursing in Kriolu. maybe
We've
maybe
been
we should have.
asked people. So
Yeah,
they've
I
asked
know.
us, not because this is part of our core plan, but people have asked us.
Right,
But we
right.
like,
Because
yeah, it's something that we've talked about before at some point in one of these
we don't want
podcasts that
to.
we
We don't want to certify you in Kriolu cursing. That's
no
not our goal. But hey,
somebody
language,
will though
language. It's part of language, and it is what it is. So,
for you
but
to
maybe
recognize.
Maybe
Yes,
maybe we missed the boat here. We should have released that before the World Cup. I'm sure
I
I'm
know,
sure there would have
right?
been a sensation.
No, that's so bad. But I for me like. as we wrapping it up over here, like the other part is the obviously, I'm all about the culture, the history, all the connections that we have. There was a few folks in Argentina who were laying out the history connection between Cabo Verde and Argentina. So Cabo Verdeans, those who live in Argentina, I think is either, my numbers are not correct, either 20,000 or 30,000 Cabo Verdeans that they know, because we actually vote. Cabo Verdeans in Argentina vote for primary legislative elections,
Wow.
that elects the prime minister and the team, and they also vote in presidential elections like every other members of the diaspora. It includes Argentina. So when
Mm.
you see anybody who follows, if you follow Cabo Verdean politics and you see the as Americas, like I like to call them, the Americas, it includes United States, Argentina, Brazil, and all of that. So Argentina's, you have a decent group there, and the guy who was apparently a historian, he was like, yeah, there's a strong connection between Cabo Verde and Argentina, and he's named a few firsts, like including one of the captains, one of the first black captains for Argentina's national team was Cabo Verdean descendant, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I saw that.
So
I
you
was
have,
like,
yeah,
this is
you have
mind
all
blowing.
of so people were not expecting that from Argentina. They expected, obviously, if it's Portugal, if it's Brazil, if it's whatever, but not Argentina. And in the comments, some folks came in and said, yeah, my great grandmother was this, so my grandmother was that. And it was amazing to see descendants from Cabo Verde in Argentina talking about their family and remembering their grandparents' names and what they knew, what they know. And some of them, most of them, obviously do not know the language. Again, this is another point. We're talking about Spanish. The other way for people to learn, to come and learn Kriolu. That's another thing that we have to think about, because it did that, right? The World Cup did that for these different types of language. So for me, that was like watching the cultural part and history part unfold. Of course, I got super happy. And on going back to Brazil, when when Brazilians start really learning about Cabo Verde, they're like, it's gonna be mind blowing for them, because Cabo Verde was supposed to become independent along with Brazil. Like in 1812, that's around 1812. That's the earliest that we were already like Cabo Verdeans. You had all the slaves doing revolts, or people who were descendants of all like Brazil was a big part of that process in for Cabo Verdeans. We almost became independent along with Brazil when they did in the
Wow.
1812, around those times, because they have their own crazy history, obviously, with Portugal. But we were there, like we almost did. We could have had 200 years of independence along with
Yeah,
Brazil,
that's what
and it
I'm
was
saying.
like,
Wow.
and we had a tight connection then. So you know what I mean. So it's
Wow.
going to be
I
interesting
wonder
to
how
see
much
what
more
Brazil.
different things would have been.
I think about this all the time, all the
Yeah.
time. Like every time I think about how if we had won got our independence, won our independence 200 more than 200 years ago, where Cape Verde would be now.
Yeah.
So it's in a very different kind of how do you say, a very different kind of context, who was pushing for the independence and how. So you're talking
Mm.
a lot of people who had not gone to study in Portugal yet. You're talking
Mm.
about people nakavid, like these are like, because a lot of things about our history, which you know, I, I'm with all the stuff made me want to think more about how to make sure that we build a lot more as well in these in the stuff that we do with Kriolish. You had a few revolts, not just in Santiago. You also had in Sal. You had in a few other places. So it's interesting, like our history is so rich that we really still don't know a lot about ourselves as Cabo Verdeans. Like even me, like the more like I study and I read and I go dig up, go in my rabbit holes, and I'm like, how do we not know this stuff? But collectively we still have a lot to learn as well. And hopefully with this, as a result of this World Cup, people start to go in there and go beyond. We have to go beyond independencia and democracia. Like we have to go beyond those two key moments in Cabo Verde, 1975 and 1991. We have to remember that we were people before 1975, right? You had a whole generation there before 1975. So we have to start doing that, and only then I think we can really like bring in more about what Cabo Verde is and how much we're really connected with the rest of the world on so many levels. But yeah, Brazil is gonna be. I think the Brazilians are gonna get into more of a shock the more they learn about Cabo Verde when they see how deep our connection with them.
Well, I think we're going to be shocked too, because it's just the way in which you've laid it out. Like now, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, well, maybe if it was those people from the 1800s that were the pioneers of independence, like maybe Kriolu would have been an official language since then.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we know that, and this is kind of disappointing, but PAIGC did not favor politics for the language around the the independence times. They had their reasons, but again, it sounds like the movement in the 1800s was more grassroots,
Oh yeah, it was.
right?
Yeah, it was. And imagine that
Which
time, huh? Where you had a lot more limitations and other
exactly,
stuff. And
exactly.
like, I've heard
Well,
different stories of why it didn't play out. Like I've heard that the Portuguese crown found a way to stop us, and I
yeah.
also heard that there was a ship of there was a group of people who were supposed, like, they were represented from different islands, representatives from
Hmm.
different islands was supposed to leave Cabo Verde and go to Brazil as part of the process to go sign whatever, and the ship uh, crashed or it wrecked or something like that. It was like a whole, there's like some other drama around.
So
And after that, nothing else happened.
you know
But yeah,
what's
but I haven't,
interesting?
I need to look closer into it. But yes, it's
You
a
know
very interesting stuff.
you know what's interesting is, especially since you mentioned how the crown put a stop to whatever insurgency was happening around that time. It was around that same time that they started establishing, the Portuguese language, forcing the Portuguese language into the population via public schools and forbidding the use of Criollo. Because language, has
Of,
this power to unite people and to affirm an identity. And I think that that is what was probably at the root of the insurgency. So, you know, all of a sudden you start connecting these dots and bringing it
yeah.
back to language, which is what we do,
I need,
right?
yeah, I need to go do, yeah, I need to come find some of these historians and bring them into the podcast so we can just
Nah, that
talk
would be
about
awesome.
and like and go back, really go back because I think you had mentioned probably a few years ago that the first alphabet is Cabo Verdean alphabet is from the 1800s and it's somewhere
Yeah,
in Portugal, and I was like,
yeah.
we need to go find it. So these are the things like information that are out there for us to really understand how our identity through the language has been around for a very long time. But if we don't dig deeper and know these things ourselves, we're not we're not going to get or push and be where we need to be at, from the language
And it- and
perspective.
I think
But
and I
yeah,
think it and I think it brings us back to the more important broader point that you made, that Cape Verde didn't start in 1975.
yeah, we did not.
The nation, the identity, the language, us as a people is something that's been in the work for centuries. So
Yes.
but I think that you're right in saying that there's so much more that we need to learn about us, and maybe this is going to be yet another great consequence of our great performance in the World Cup. Is that now, as people plug in, more resources come in, we start
Mm-hmm.
uncovering all of this stuff, and in
Oh,
the end, make for a more conscious people, right?
yes. So all good things coming out of the World Cup. Yes, yes, yes. So
Yep,
for
yep,
us, that all of this was ultimately connected to the language, and we thank Bubista too for making that as part of his process with the team.
amazing. I
For
didn't
us,
even know
yeah,
that. I did
yeah.
not know
I gotta
that.
send you. I'll send you the link so you can see what he
Yeah,
said. So it's
no,
out
that
there in
is that
digital
is
footprint.
amazing. Yet another reason why I'm like a big fan of this man, and is he gets it. He just gets it. Okay,
Yeah,
like
and his
you
chill
have
personality. Yes.
yeah, you have a very chill, very humble, and I think they call him Bubista because he's from Bovista,
Yes, of course,
right?
because
Yeah,
Kriolu, that's
so
what we do. We name people based on, yes, Kriolu. Yeah, that's a whole
so
other podcast, by the way. Explaining
right,
to people why Vozinha has Vozinha. I mean, they
right.
already told his story. Bubista has a story, so it's a yeah,
Yeah. So that's the thing about our culture. Like nicknames don't come out of nowhere. They carry a lot of
a
meaning.
lot of
A lot of
stories.
meaning.
Yes,
Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of
it's
stories.
almost always something funny that happened or whatever. It is like
Yeah.
there's a story behind. Yes, there's
Yeah.
always a story. And the other day, somebody told me their name, and I was like, "Yo, somebody said your name wrong," and they're like, "No, that's my name." And I was like, how was I supposed to get there? Like, how
Mhm.
is this your real name? And this is what people call you. So it
Yeah.
was it was
Right. Right.
such
So
a
that
typical
that's
Cabo Verdean thing.
that is interesting because here in the US, for example, we all know that, Bobby or Bob is for Robert,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But but that is not how we assign
Not
nicknames
the
in Cabo Verde.
correlation in Cabo Verde.
Yeah,
No, it is
like
not.
you will like Josimar Dias. How do you go from Josimar Dias to Vozinha?
Because
There's no
there's a story.
right,
Yes, there's a
right.
story behind it.
Or from what's Bubista's real name? Something Leitão.
Oh my God. Yes, his last name is Leitão. Is it
Yeah,
Leitão? Oh my God, we don't even know. This is
yeah. How do you go from from his
your
name to
government
Bubista?
name. Yes,
It makes no sense. But the moment you dig in, you find out this whole story
story behind
about
it.
their
Yes,
childhood or an event or something funny that they did or something embarrassing
and
that
it's stuck.
happened, and it just stuck. It just
Yes,
that's how it usually
it just
goes.
and I'll close this thing about Insal. You know the Carlos dad. His name is Balsa, right? When his son was coming up, they called his son Bulsia, and I'm like, we are
Well,
horrible when it comes to
it's like my dad. My dad, they call him Baloi. When I was little, they would call me Balazing
no,
or Balain or
no,
they even called me Sishting.
no way. I did not
Like,
know this.
so it was just so, yeah. And then
We
you
need,
get nicknames off of your parents, like, which is like a diminutive of
yes,
like,
we need like a whole
oh
thing on
man,
this nickname stuff. Oh, this is nice. This we definitely need to do something about this because then when people are learning Kriolu, they have to understand this cultural context of stuff like this for them
yep,
to
very important,
really
very
get
important.
into, yeah, really get into, because I don't think folks have are most likely they have not realized why Bubista is called Bubista, because first of all, it's Bubista is the way that you say Boa Vista in Creole,
The
right?
island of Boa
So
Vista,
it's,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's, oh, I'm from Bubista. If somebody's from, if they're going to say that, they're going to say I'm from Bubista. So yeah, this definitely should be one of those things that we should tackle and kind of
I think we
explain
have.
the cultural nuances of
I
nicknames
think we
in
have
Cape.
I'm getting some fun ideas here for social media posts, so stay tuned.
Yes, this is going to be fun. But yeah. Oh
Awesome.
yes, I mean we can stay here and talk probably another hour on World Cup and all of this, all of these connections and whatnot. But we really wanted to get this podcast out today, mainly to talk about what it meant for us for Kriolish, but most importantly as Cabo Verdeans to be there to experience. Well, I was in Cabo Verde, but to experience all of this as a Cabo Verdean for the first time, and it's only the beginning. And it's not gonna stop with the men's. The women's are competing for the first time. They're in the middle of the African Cup.
Congratulations. Awesome.
Yes,
Amazing.
they're in the
Amazing
middle of
milestone.
theirs. Yes, and they did it early on, and that's the thing. It's only been like 10 years because it took them they just now ranked. It hasn't been that long that the women's national team for football
Wow.
ranked. So we weren't ranked before. So if you're not ranked, you can't compete, obviously. So
Right.
now here we are. It's been 10 years or less, and they're already in their qualifications for the African Cups right now for qualification. So it's gonna it's all of this is gonna happen even faster for them in
Yeah.
being able to do that. And I just hope that the same attention and love that they gave to the men's team, they'll give it to the women's, because the amount of girls that I know play soccer, I mean, I've been around when I was younger. It's even more now that are
Mm-hmm.
that are playing football. I can't say soccer.
I know.
So so the amount of young girls still playing football in Cape Verde, it's a lot, and they've never had the chance to build on it. And
Yep.
we have national championships in Cape Verde for women's as well, football. So I really hope that this is going to be like an opportunity for the federation to also invest, because that's the biggest challenge that happens. Like, it's the gender difference is real.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is happening, but the gender difference is real. And even in other sports, we see it. And I'll speak for basketball. We saw it, like, even for us from a federation perspective, when we went to the World Cup in 2023, the women's national team was supposed to also be competing at the Afrobasket. We couldn't get enough funding even for the men's going to the World Cup. It was a huge challenge for us to get enough funding for us to bring them, and that couldn't even get us to lock in money to bring the for the women to do their AfroBasket competition, which is also a competition that leads you to FIBA's Basketball World Cup qualifications as well. But it always, like, it falls short a lot on the women's side, mainly because of funding, not because of talent. We have talent out the wazoo in Cape Verde for sports, for every sport, both genders. The talent is there, the funding and the sponsorship, and for people to understand the power of that they can invest in both, and they'll get results for both. That's where that things needs to change, and hopefully this World Cup will start giving people more a different way of looking at this, and that the women's national team for football and the other sports also get to build on, and then even from the Cabo Verdean government perspective, they got to take this a little bit more serious too. The funding for teams to compete at the international level, but not leaving the women's and the younger teams out of this process, because you have to build. If you don't build in Cavir, they're gonna go outside. Eventually, they have to, because we don't have universities, for instance, right? And eventually they need, some of them need their education, especially the young women and girls. You have to go get your education, because otherwise it's going to be hard for you to get jobs no matter what, even as as a professional athlete or not. So the government needs to figure this stuff out as well, like how do they help these national federations build, because we are bringing the country, we're promoting the country everywhere we go, without a lot of funding that we should have. And here we are bringing tourism into the country, which is the number one economic generator in Cape Verde, is tourism, right? So now look at what the World Cup is about to do. So the government needs to think about the stuff, and other sponsors, businesses needs to think about what it really means when you put money behind sports. It covers a lot of stuff. You talk about youth development, you're talking about health issues, relationships, like there's a bunch of stuff that you can cover through sports, leadership, whatever. And I really hope that folks take it serious, but do not leaving the woman out of all of this. So I'm excited that they're there, that they're competing. They're in the middle of their tournament right now. Unfortunately, we lost to Ghana yesterday, but it's okay. It's an experience for them. This is all brand new, but they're building the next generation too for athletes. So I'm excited about sports. I get excited about sports, period. Anything sports. So, and to connect Cabo Verde and Kriolu and all of this in the middle of it, yes, that's even more. It's like cherry on top of the cake for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about making the economics work, and it's all a matter of investment, right?
Yes,
And that's what we're seeing again and again. You make the right investment, the right amount of investment, you get the returns that have been sitting there for a long time waiting for this investment.
yes.
So absolutely, I think that was very well put.
And we'll do our part. We keep doing what we have to do to contribute to people understanding who we are as people, as Cabo Verdeans, and the language and the culture. So we're here for it. We're
Absolutely. I
we're
mean, I
getting
think,
started.
I guess just to wrap up, the thing that is amazing about this World Cup, we built Kriolish to serve the community in the diaspora. But I don't know, I get a sense of like it's as if the diaspora just got a whole lot bigger.
Yeah. Oh, yes, no doubt.
Like all of a sudden, it's like our mission to serve the diaspora and the responsibility, right, that we have assumed here. All of a sudden, the stakes are so much higher now, right? Because, like you said, there's a lot of development and investment that needs to be made in healthcare and in education and sports infrastructure, but the foundation needs to be laid on the language. The language has to be the number one asset. It is the asset
Yeah,
that can be
it's part of
leveraged
it.
to
Yeah,
mobilize the diaspora, the community in Cape Verde and in the diaspora worldwide to come change the baseline of what is possible for the Cabo Verdean people.
100%. So yeah, thank you for the chat. We'll have more. Hopefully, next time we'll bring other experts to come tell us a little bit more about our history
Yeah.
before 1975.
No, I think that sounds, yeah, I think that sounds like an
Maybe we should
amazing
pick
amazing
countries and be
idea.
like, okay, let's talk about this country, that country, and be very specific and put it out there, because I think people are going to
Yep.
look for this information as well. It's not
Yeah,
just the
I mean,
languages,
the
understanding
Ca-
more. So,
hey,
yeah,
the Cabo Verdean footprint is in all. It's like the corners of the world that we are still finding footprints of Cabo Verdeans is just like this. Like I said, the diaspora community just keeps getting wider
just
and wider
getting,
and wider.
yes. And we're here for it.
Yep,
Thank you,
yes, we are.
Edmar.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. Y'all know website, follow us, Kriolish. Find us Kriolish.com, social media. We always have fun stuff out there, and it's been a nice process just on social media alone. So we're
Yeah,
here for it, and hopefully you all
and
continue to
please,
join us.
yep,
Give us comments, suggestions. Let us know.
and please let us know in the comment section below what this World Cup meant to you as a Cabo Verdean, as a Cabo Verdean
Y-
descendant, or a Cabo Verdean fan. Thank you.
Yes. Ciao.
Peace.